Dear listeners, just a quick note before we begin. We will be taking a Diwali break on Monday, which means that the next episode will air on Tuesday, the 14th of November. In the meantime, you can check out our older episodes, including the one we recently did about a woman who may have the most unique job in the world. The link to it is in today's show notes. We wish you all a very happy and safe Diwali. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the earthquake in Nepal, which killed over 150 people last week. We also give you an update about the 8 former Navy personnel in Qatar that have been issued a death sentence. But first, we talk about Chhattisgarh, which witnessed its first phase of the ongoing assembly elections on Tuesday. The state currently has the Congress party in power, with Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel at the helm. However, the BJP, having leveled multiple corruption charges against it and emphasizing its strong Hindutva plank, is striving to change that. To know about the factors influencing the polls in the state and the challenges that the Congress party is facing, we speak to Indian Express's Jayprakash Naidu in this segment. Jayprakash, to begin with, what would you say have been the biggest highlights of this current Congress government in the state?
So, about biggest highlights of Congress government, I will say they have spent 1.75 lakh crore in welfare schemes. This includes Gothans, meaning cow shelter, where women self-help groups buy cow dung and they make vermicompost and natural paint. They grow veggies, mushroom, they have poultry, and there are some more activities. Then there is this rural industrial parks which have been made to strengthen the rural economy. And then they have given MSP for millets, and they have also increased the number of forest produce to get MSP. So there are a lot of welfare schemes that the Congress has brought about. So this has been the biggest highlights of their term.
And Jayprakash, is Baghel facing any anti-incumbency at this point?
Well, Baghel claims there is no anti-incumbency, but going by voting pattern in Chhattisgarh, where BJP has ruled for 15 years, it's possible that he is right. Secondly, why I say this is the difference of vote share between the two parties has never crossed 3% in the last 15 years. But in the last election, Congress has won by a margin of 10%. Also, BJP in its 3 terms took total loans of 30,000 crores, but Congress in its 5 years took over 50,000 crores loan for welfare and development work. Furthermore, last time they had promised farm loan waiver and higher paddy procurement price. These were the 2 major factors which gave them a huge victory over 3-time BJP's Chief Minister Raman Singh's government, which was facing a huge anti-incumbency.
And Chhattisgarh is relatively a new state. Development is still a huge challenge. Plus, Naxalism remains a big issue. Could you talk about some of these challenges the state continues to face?
Well, in my opinion, everything depends on how well the welfare schemes work in the next 5 years, assuming Congress comes back to power. I say this because not only have they taken a lot of loans for this, but it's also Baghel government's only shield against the several corruption allegations leveled by the BJP, ED and IT. As far as Naxalism is concerned, Bhupesh Baghel has adopted a different way. He's saying that we are not going for the ideology of bullet for bullet. We are going by the ideology of providing them development, providing them education, and slowly and steadily he believes the Naxals will die a natural death.
And you mentioned the charges that the BJP has been leveling against the current Congress government. Talk about some of those charges and what all the party has been doing to win the elections this time.
So I have summed up the BJP's efforts in 3 things. One is the corruption plank, where several allegations have been made, like the coal levy case, the liquor sale case, the Mahadev app case, the public distribution system, the public service commission examination, the rice milling done, the district mineral fund scam, then the Gothan Yojana, where top leaders like Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Minister Amit Shah have repeatedly termed the Chhattisgarh government as being an ATM for running Congress party, and only people who are close to Congress have benefited from all these scams.
शराब घोटाला किया 2000 करोड़ का, कोयला परिवहन घोटाला 540 करोड़ का, गोठान घोटाला 1300 करोड़ का। मैं इतने लंबे समय से राजनीति में हूं, 1980 से मैंने गाय के गोबर में पैसा खाने वाला आदमी मेरे जीवन में नहीं देखा है।
Secondly, they are trying to match up to the Congress manifesto by giving freebies and subsidies. Though they have not offered a farm loan waiver, they have offered 12,000 per year monetary help for married women and time-bound implementation of central schemes, which they allege the state has failed to do, and filling up government jobs in a time-bound manner, which again they allege state has failed to do. Thirdly, it is their Hindutva plank. In Bemetara district, a Hindu man was killed, and in retaliation, a father-son duo from the Muslim community were killed. There was communal violence in Kavarda in 2021, and BJP leaders like Yogi Adityanath, Himanta Biswa Sarma and Amit Shah have banked on this communal incidents in their speeches to get votes.
छत्तीसगढ़ की जनता ने तय करना है आदिवासियों के अधिकारों की रक्षा पर वादा करके बैठे भूपेश बघेल की सरकार, जिसके शासन में अप्रत्याशित तौर पर धर्म परिवर्तन की एक बयार आई, वो सरकार चाहिए या आदिवासियों की संस्कृति को फिर से एक बार सुरक्षित और संवर्धित करने वाली भाजपा की?
Okay, so the BJP has been talking about these alleged scams, the subsidies it plans to give, and the Hindutva plank. What is the other thing that they have been focusing on?
So, lastly, father of the deceased Hindu person in Bemetara has been given a ticket for contesting the elections, assembly elections, while in Kavarda, a BJP leader who was jailed for the communal violence has also got a ticket. So, these three things.
And how has the Congress reacted to all of this, especially to these corruption allegations?
Yeah, so as far as the communal issue is concerned, Congress counter is Baghel's regional identity, Chhattisgarh identity, and his soft Hindutva stand where he is renovating Mata Kaushalya temple, Kaushalya being Lord Ram's mother, and making Ram Van Gaman Path, which as per Ramayan, Ram had come to Chhattisgarh when he was exiled. As far as corruption allegation is concerned, Baghel is simply saying central agencies work at the behest of BJP in non-BJP states.
एक चीज बताइए, छत्तीसगढ़ में क्या एक ही राजनीतिक दल के लोग हैं और 200 छापे डाले हैं बस? एक भी धोखे से भारतीय जनता पार्टी कार्यकर्ता है उसे संबंधित या उससे जुड़े हुए लोगों के यहाँ नहीं पड़ा। देश में भी देख लीजिए, क्या कभी आपने उत्तर प्रदेश में भारतीय जनता पार्टी से जुड़े कोई ठेकेदार है, व्यापारी है, उद्योगपति, उसके छापा पड़ा या वहां के अधिकारियों के खिलाफ छापा पड़ा या मध्य प्रदेश में पड़ा है? उनके साथ रह के भ्रष्टाचार करें, वो शिष्टाचार है, वो भ्रष्टाचार नहीं है।
So, one thing which I observed about Baghel is he does not shy away from the media. That is something that we have to give it to him. BJP may say he's corrupt. I don't know whether he's corrupt or he's not corrupt. But one thing is that he has not ever shied away from giving answers to the media. He's so confident about his welfare schemes. That's something that I observed as a journalist. I also interviewed him a couple of times. So, I asked him a hell lot of questions and he had answers for everything. That is one thing. Second thing about this 5 years, I would say, is that people close to Baghel have been arrested, booked or raided in all the scams. Like if you start with the coal levy case, the deputy secretary Somya Chaurasia has been arrested. That was December last year and she still is behind the bars. Then 2 Congress MLAs have been charge sheeted. One of them got a ticket again. His name is Devendra Yadav. The other one did not get a ticket. He lost his ticket. And then there is a Congress person also who has been charge sheeted. His name is RP Singh. So he's also, someone who you can say is close to Baghel.
And during the past few years, there have also been a number of communal tensions in the state. Could you talk about that a bit and whether that has been a concern during this poll season?
See, the major issue would be the issue of Christian conversion in Bastar, where, the tribals are converting to Christianity and there has been a lot of violence. Tribals have been boycotted and the tribals have said that, the government has not done enough and they formed their own party called Sarvadi Dal, which has contested. So this will eat into Congress votes. That is one. Second is there has been communal violence in Kavarda and in Bemetara. So as far as Kavarda is concerned, an important point to make over here is Kavarda has the only Muslim MLA in Chhattisgarh and he has won by a record margin of over 59,000 votes. So it would be interesting to see if communal violence can eat into Akbar's vote. It would be difficult for Akbar to lose because he won by 59,000 crore margin. But let's see how much, happens in Kavarda. And as far as dealing with communal violence is concerned, they had applied National Security Act in Bastar when too much violence was happening because they attacked the church in January and then they attacked the SP as well. SP was bleeding from his head. So it had become very serious. And of course, there was social boycott and so many tribal villagers who believed in Christianity were forced to leave their villages. They had come on roads. So it had become a big thing.
Okay, now let's talk about polling. We are talking after the first phase of polling has been completed. We understand that more than 2/3 of the constituencies saw a decrease in voter turnout compared to 2018, and polling anyway has been a challenging task in the state. So tell us how the first phase went.
Yes, so a day before the polling took place, one BSF Jawan, while providing security cover to a polling party in Kanker, accidentally stepped on a pressure ID and he suffered grievous injuries. A day later, he succumbed to his injuries. Then the two polling party workers who suffered injuries along with the Jawan are said to be safe. On the day of polling, there were as many as 10 violent incidents executed by Naxals. In this, one was an ID blast in Sukma, where Cobra Commando of CRPF suffered a serious leg injury. He was airlifted to Raipur and his treatment is going on. On the same day, the different team of the same Cobra battalion, they faced firing, and in that 4 Jawans have suffered minor injuries. The bullets just brushed them, so they are said to be out of danger. Apart from this, there were a total of 6 firing incidents, but no one was harmed in the incidents. And of course, they have found over 10 to 15 IDs and explosives. They have diffused these IDs, and a lot of explosives have also been found. So in case they would have succeeded, the Naxals would have killed at least over 100 people. But luckily, no lives were lost. This is in the 12 seats of Naxal affected Bastar region. The 8 seats which were in Durg division, their elections have gone peacefully.
And next we talk about Nepal. Exactly a week ago, our neighboring country was struck by a deadly earthquake that killed 157 people and injured more than 250. It took place late at night when most people were asleep.
And it was of 6.4 magnitude on the Richter scale, and its epicenter was close to Jajarkot district in western Nepal, which is one of the most backward areas in Nepal.
That's Indian Express's Asad Rehman, who went to Jajarkot to report on the earthquake for the paper.
And it caused a lot of damage in Jajarkot district and Hukum West district. These two districts were mainly affected by the earthquake, and the situation in Nepal right now is very grim, and a lot of aid has already reached Nepal, and people are trying their best to get on with life and to move forward. But there are a lot of challenges for the people over there, and the magnitude of the loss is massive at this stage.
The disaster has destroyed thousands of houses and has upended the lives of many others. While reporting, Asad had visited the Bheri hospital, which is around 9 kilometers away by road from the epicenter. He says about 40 patients are being treated there right now.
For different injuries, most of the patients there have multiple fractures. Their ribs are fractured, multiple bones in their legs are fractured, their heads have injuries, they have severe trauma injuries on their skulls, and the hospital has some heartbreaking and people who've gone through a really difficult time. So, for example, this one family, these 4 cousins had 2 cousins were visiting Jajarkot district for a vacation, and 2 of them lived in Jajarkot district. 4 of them had slept together in one room, and 3 of the cousins couldn't make it. And one of the cousin, who's 19 years old, she survived, and she was trapped under the debris for 2 hours. She told me that for 30 minutes or so, she heard cries of her cousins for help who were trapped under the debris. But eventually, she also became unconscious, and the shouts and cries for help from her cousins stopped.
He says there are multiple stories like this. Stories of people who have lost their entire families due to this tragedy. For example, a 40-year-old man named Uday Kami, who lost his 3 children and wife.
So he's been left with no family after the earthquake. He's also lost some members of his extended family, like his brother's son has died, his sister's daughter has died, and his mother has also died in the earthquake. So in total, 7 members of that family have died. And this is not the only case. There are so many people who've lost loved ones and who've lost their family members.
And Asad, you mentioned that Jajarkot, the epicenter of the earthquake, is a very economically backward region. Could you talk about the challenges it's facing at the moment, especially when it comes to the rescue operations?
So Jajarkot district is somewhere in the middle of the Himalayan mountain range, and the geography over there is really tough. And one of the reasons that the scale of the loss is so much that this Jajarkot district and its adjoining areas, both Hukum West as well, are very backward areas, and the poverty level is really bad. So these families have houses which are built with rocks and mud. So these are big rocks, and they build their houses with mud and rocks. There's no cement, there's no bricks. And most of the houses that have collapsed are made of rocks and mud. Now, when these rocks fall, it's difficult to get out of them. And one big rock falling on head or is somewhere where it can cause a lot of damage. Plus, the geography makes rescue and relief work really difficult. It takes hours to reach the place. Now, the Nepal government this time, as compared to the 2014-15 earthquake, has been better at rescue work, but still, it's a very challenging geography. The roads are narrow, they're not well built, they're not concrete, they're off-road, some of them with the huge rocks. So, reaching there or getting from there to a place where you can get better treatment was difficult. Though the Nepal government did arrange a lot of people to fly in small aeroplanes or in helicopters to Nepalganj, which is by road it is 8 to 10 hours, but by flight it took less time, and a lot of people died on the way. A lot of people died while in transit or after reaching the hospital. So both relief and rescue work, because of the geography and because of the scale, like backwardness of the place, is really difficult.
Right, and we understand that health facilities there are not great, and which is one of the reasons why the casualties there have been so many. But this earthquake happened on Friday, and then on Monday, the country witnessed another earthquake, though that was not as severe. But could you talk about how people reacted to it?
Monday's earthquake happened at 4:30 p.m. in the evening, and I was there on a hilltop reporting and talking to people, and I was doing a shoot of like the army personnel pulling out debris and trying to reconstruct these houses. And that is when this earthquake hit, and it was scary, and it induced a lot of anxiety among people on Monday. There were a lot of chaos that ensued after this, like people started running and trying to get to a place where there's an open field. Now what happens is that these houses are built on steps on these mountains. So getting to a place where you can avoid damage or an open field or an open space is also difficult. So it was a 10-minute trek where I was when the earthquake hit. So getting down to the place where this sort of playground is there, where they've set up a relief camp, took me 10 minutes. And during those 10 minutes, I could sense the anxiety among the people. And I was also really anxious at that moment, because it was the first time that I was witnessing an earthquake where things and stones and rocks were actually rolling down the slope. A lot of people were preparing to go back and sleep inside their houses from Monday night. But now since 4:30 p.m. this earthquake happened, all of Jajarkot is just sleeping on the streets, or they're sleeping in these relief camps.
He says that right now a lot of help is pouring into Nepal from India and other neighboring countries. But the remaining challenge lies in effectively delivering aid to remote areas, which can be very inaccessible.
So yeah, I think it's going to take a while before the people recover from this earthquake and life goes back to how it was earlier. And the second earthquake on Monday has delayed the process of people getting back inside their houses and sleeping again the way they used to sleep. A lot of people are sleeping on the streets. They're putting out small tent sort of place, plastic sheets to cover themselves. It also gets really cold there at this time during the night and in the morning. So there's a lot of dew, and that makes it difficult to sleep outdoors. So they're sleeping under plastic sheets and other things to protect themselves from the cold. And you can sense the tension on the streets of Jajarkot, even though the people of Nepal are used to this, and maybe if you were just there for a few hours, you might not see it, because on the surface, people are looking like they are doing okay and they're playing cards and doing other things. But having longer conversations with people made me feel that there is anxiety underneath the surface. So yeah, let's see how long it takes, and if for people to get back to their lives and how it was earlier. A lot of people are not going to be able to go back to how life was, because they've lost multiple family members. Some have lost their parents, some have lost their children. So it is complicated, and it is going to take a long time before they can get back to how life was before Friday night.
And in the end, we talk about Qatar. Last month, a court in Qatar issued death sentences to 8 former personnel of the Indian Navy. Now, just yesterday, the Ministry of External Affairs said that an appeal has been filed in the case. During a press conference, MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi emphasized that the judgment is confidential and has been shared exclusively with the legal team.
एक कोर्ट ऑफ फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस होता है कतर में, जिन्होंने 26 अक्टूबर को जजमेंट दिया था. ये 8 इंडियन एम्प्लॉय जो थे अल दारा कंपनी के. जजमेंट कॉन्फिडेंशियल है और सिर्फ लीगल टीम के साथ शेयर किया गया है. वो अब अगला लीगल स्टेप्स जो हैं उसके बारे में उस पर जांच कर रहे हैं. एक अपील फाइल की गई है विशेष रूप से भी, और क्या लीगल स्टेप्स, और उनका लीगल, मुझे जितना दूर मालूम है उनका अपील फाइल हो गया है. और हम भी कतरी अथॉरिटीज के साथ इस मामले में संपर्क बनाए हुए हैं. 7 नवंबर को हमारी
Now this development comes more than a year after Qatar detained these individuals in connection with an alleged espionage case. The 8 Indian nationals were privately employed by a Doha-based company called Dhara Global to oversee the induction of Italian small stealth submarines, U-2I-2s. They were taken into custody in August of last year. And what's noteworthy is that Qatar has not made the charges against them public and did not immediately inform India after the arrests were made. According to Shubhajit Roy, Indian Express's diplomatic affairs editor, the news of the death penalty came as a complete shock to India. He writes that at this point, India mainly has 3 options. First is the legal process involving challenging the death sentence in higher courts. The second option is a mercy petition, and the families of these 8 Indians have already filed a mercy plea with Qatar's current ruler, who is known to grant pardons during Ramadan and Eid. And the last option is that of pursuing diplomatic efforts at various official and political levels, which is also something India has been trying. This case, in many ways, is a test of India's multifaceted ties with Qatar, which has grown in recent years. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.